you appear to be saying that he confirmed to you that there were no issues with Horizon, knowing that you hadn't read the relevant documents yourselves. In effect, Mr. Marsh misled you.
Even based on the limited information that you say you had access to at the time, do you think you should have referred it to the attention of the board?
I probably should.
Could we have back on screen, please, paragraph 59 of Mr. Miller's second statement? That's page 14. Starting at the second sentence, you refer to the email securing a slot in your diary for Tony Marsh. Can you recall how long after Roddy's Ismay's email you met with Tony Marsh to discuss this?
I can't, but I remember that I learnt about it on the day.
You learnt about it on the day of the email, you mean?
No, on the day that Tony came to see me.
I see. So how did you become aware?
Donna said, Tony Marsh needs to see you urgently. Or words to that effect, I'm sorry, I can't remember. But I do remember, the whole thing I remember about this is that it kind of just happened. It wasn't there's a process here to review something. It was, need to get this done, and Tony Marsh wants to get into your diary. It won't be for long. And I have to say I went along with that.
Did you read anything before you met Tony Marsh?
I can't remember what I read. I'm sorry, I can't.
You say we met for approximately 10 to 15 minutes. To the best of my memory, he told me there was an issue with the expert advice, which had led our counsel to say that the case was unlikely to succeed. It was clear that he did not think much of the expert. The view was that we should cut our losses and pay up. He said something about Horizon. I cannot recall specifically what he said, but I remember checking with him whether there were issues with Horizon. I said something like, "You are not saying there are issues with Horizon, are you, Tony?" He said that there were no issues, and I got the impression it was a one-off case. During the meeting, he produced some paperwork to authorise payment, which I signed. So your recollection is that you signed off the authorisation of settlement at the meeting, is that right?
Yes, it is.
And you did so without having read counsel's advice or requesting the expert's opinion?
I did.
Why didn't you ask to see the expert advice when Tony Marsh discussed it with you in the meeting?
This came to me, as I say, as a on-the-day issue. It came from a very senior finance person and from the head of security, who I trusted. And I regret, obviously, very much not having said, stop, let's review what's actually going on here. But I didn't.
It may be that you can't assist at this remove, but what exactly did Tony say about the issues with Horizon or lack thereof?
I can't. I mean, for this distance, I can remember quite a lot about this because clearly I must have been uneasy, but I can't remember the detailed the really detailed conversation. In fact, this was so quickly done that I doubt if there was a lot of detailed discussion.
You do say, Mr. Miller, that you asked him, in effect, a direct question, whether there were issues with Horizon. And then you say what you might have said in the brackets that follow. And you appear to be saying that he confirmed to you that there were no issues with Horizon. Yeah? So I'm a little bit mystified how that could sit with the terms of the email which Mr. Ismay had sent. Because the whole case was about whether there was an issue with Horizon.
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir, I'm not going to be able to help you.
Well, one interpretation, and I'm simply putting forward possibilities, not expressing conclusions. One interpretation is that knowing that you hadn't read the relevant documents yourselves, in effect, Mr. Marsh misled you. Does that sit with your understanding of Mr. Marsh?
The way I'm looking back now and seeing how this was done does not sit with my opinion or previous opinion of Mr. Marsh, which is that I trusted him implicitly.
The other alternative, which perhaps does sit with what you're trying to articulate, is that despite Mr. Coyne being a jointly instructed expert approved by the court, there were those in Fujitsu and the post office who just weren't prepared to accept his opinion and therefore decided that what they do was to get rid of this case for as cheaply as they could and then pretend it had never happened. Is that more likely?
I think there was clearly a desire within the business to get rid of this case.
Yeah. Whereas in fact, if responsible people within the business had treated Mr. Coyne's opinion seriously and carried out some investigations of their own, it might have prevented many of the things which followed. Is that fair?
I'm afraid that is correct, sir.
Yeah, all right.
Just following on from the chair's question then, at paragraph 61 of your second statement, you acknowledge that by not reading counsel's advice and the expert opinion, there was a missed opportunity.
I do.
Can you recall at all the level of settlement which you approved?
I couldn't, but I think it was about £180,000.
But do you have an independent recollection of that now?
No.
Okay. We've seen reference to a number of figures in the paperwork, so that's why I asked, just to be clear, can you recall at all?
If I'd been asked, I would have said it was under 150, but you know, I've now seen quite a few numbers.
Did you draw this case to the attention of the Post Office Limited Board at any point?
No. Could I just say
Apologies,
why?
go on, of course.
Because This was in Peter Corbett's line of command, and the only reason he hadn't been dealing with it was that he was on holiday. And I would have expected Peter to discuss this at board level.
Even based on the limited information that you say you had access to at the time, do you think you should have referred it to the attention of the board, notwithstanding Peter Corbett's area of responsibility?
I probably should. But before that, I should have put a stop to it by saying, this has got to be reviewed properly.